pack, the kind of information that I want into 1 minute. I'm David Schwartz, CTO at Ripple, and this is Crypto in a Minute. I've got 1 minute, okay. Well, the first consensus model was proof of work. I guess the advantage of proof of work was at the time it was the only game in town, and it allowed for a decentralized system, that is, one that doesn't rely on a central authority. Later developments included things like Federated Byzantine Agreement, which the XRP ledger uses, and proof of stake. Some of the advantages of these later developments are lower cost. Proof of work costs millions of dollars to pay the miners for the energy that they use. Proof of stake doesn't have that cost and can provide comparable security. And if you're the person who's paying those costs, if you're the people who are using the system, how much it costs just to keep the system secure is like a tax. It's residual friction that the system doesn't remove. Federated Byzantine Agreement, which is what the XRP ledger uses, makes the users of the system the stakeholders rather than the people who have the most money to spend on tokens or power. And that provides a more sort of democratic system where the costs can be low and the performance can be high. Oh, just that was really good.
The Internet of Value is about rewiring the global financial infrastructure to dramatically improve the cost, speed, and certainty of how transactions flow. It's amazing to me how many people really don't realize how much friction there is in payments. We've become habituated to just expecting this is how it works. And I think, like so many other industries that have been disrupted by reducing friction, increasing speed, I think we're going to see a dramatic change over the next 10 or even 15 years that are really hard to predict today, that are the foundation that will be laid upon that Internet of Value. XRP is part of the heartbeat of Ripple. It is the foundation of how we think about liquidity management, and a core problem that how the financial infrastructure works is around how liquidity is managed. Today, financial institutions are wired with pools of capital. They're called Nostro and Vostro accounts. And these are accounts that are pre-funded between financial institutions. And that's capital sitting dormant and not being used for either working capital or lending or what have you. By using a digital asset, you can enable liquidity in real time. This is transformational to how global financial infrastructure is wired. Every marathon starts with a single step. For us, the first step is getting financial institutions engaged and working with us, getting them to understand how the core technology of Xcurrent works, introducing how we can help manage liquidity. There's a lot of friction and cost associated with banks and financial institutions working with other institutions. We can change and accelerate how that works really materially, dramatically, and I think introducing XRP into those flows will take time, but as I said, every marathon starts with a single step. When I zoom out and look at where Ripple sits in the blockchain and crypto ecosystem, we are incredibly fortunate to be the only company with real customers solving real problems. That is at the early stages of that marathon, but there's no doubt that as we look at the race that has started, we're the only ones that have crossed that starting line.
It goes back to 04. So the kind of seed of it was a project called the Ripple Project, which was created by this really smart engineer up in Canada, Ryan Fugger, who had this idea of creating a person-to-person exchange of kind of credits, personal credits or IOUs, which effectively you could always argue credit and currencies. You can almost argue everybody has their own currency and their credit. They're very related. And it was a really neat system. It was a nonprofit. It was kind of a one-man show. He worked on it for years. Got a lot of respect and attention, but never really got to scale. Maybe it was just too early. And now fast forward to 2011, which was when these three geniuses, one of them sitting right here, got together and knew about Bitcoin, obviously. Bitcoin had been earlier, but had decided that Bitcoin was, brilliant, but very wasteful. So the idea was to build both a more efficient, consensus algorithm that didn't consume so much electricity like Bitcoin did, but accomplished the same thing. But importantly, at the same time, was also taking some of the ideas from the Ripple project around the idea of pathfinding algorithms to exchange anything of value for any other thing of value. And that combination was kind of I think kind of a magic combination. So you had kind of the ability to exchange anything of value in a very efficient way through this ingenious pathfinding algorithm, coupled with a digital asset that had no counterparty or gateway counterparty. That's a neat combination. In fact, that is kind of the germ of what I think we now view as a much broader Internet of Value. That concept has kind of held. So I got involved with the three geniuses working on this stuff. Soon thereafter, the technology sort of became stable enough to declare it, something's going to happen. That's sort of effectively the birth of XRP. We then created a company that was going to advocate for that ecosystem and focus on the ecosystem, which was then gifted a large percent of the XRP. We also then bought Ryan's Ripple project, folded that into the efforts, which was neat. And that was kind of an exchange of stock. And then we also were lucky enough to be able to acquire the URL for Ripple, which is kind of a funny story. It came from a Grateful Dead super fan. It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead. And so that all kind of came together in 2012. And that's how Ripple got started.
As some of you may know, Ripple spent years proactively engaging with the SEC. I personally met with Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman, with no lawyer present. Why would I need a lawyer if we were all coming together in good faith? We answered every question they had, and not once did they suggest to me that XRP was a security. We were fully transparent, not knowing they would then use this information against us.
Hi, I'm Brad Garlinghouse. As many of you know, I don't often make videos like this, but then again, not every week has been like this one. A few days ago, after 2 years, 7 court orders, and over $100 million in legal bills, the Hinman speech documents, including internal SEC emails and comments leading up to this now infamous 2018 speech, they've finally been unsealed. Hinman's speech created new factors to determine if a token becomes sufficiently decentralized to no longer be considered a security. At best, these documents show that senior officials at the SEC couldn't agree on the law and told Bill Hinman directly he would confuse the public even more about the rules for crypto. At worst, they show that Hinman deliberately ignored the law, and he tried to create new laws, something only Congress can do. And while he was a public servant, Hinman received millions of dollars of payments from his law firm, which was part of an alliance with others that had a vested interest in this speech. This speech isn't about any one token or any one blockchain. This is about showing the extent to which the SEC has relentlessly pursued enforcement actions against crypto players while professing fake open arms and calls to come in and register, all the while lying about their so-called guidance. As some of you may know, Ripple spent years proactively engaging with the SEC. I personally met with Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman, with no lawyer present. Why would I need a lawyer if we were all coming together in good faith? We answered every question they had, and not once did they suggest to me that XRP was a security. We were fully transparent, not knowing they would then use this information against us. The SEC hit us with a surprise Wells notice saying they were considering suing us for breaking securities laws and still refused to provide specifics. To those that have recently been hit with their own Wells notices and lawsuits, this likely sounds all too familiar. When the lawsuit did drop against us, days before Christmas, a very Grinch-like touch, they made it personal. They sued Chris Larson and they sued myself, alleging we should have known all along that XRP was a security. You can now see plain as day, they couldn't even agree amongst themselves. And to me, it still seems like they can't. What we saw play out in our case is exactly what's still happening. The SEC is looking to kill crypto innovation in the United States, and its current chair, an unelected bureaucrat, I might add, is weaponizing the lack of regulatory clarity to exert jurisdiction over the entire crypto space. This is the definition of putting politics over people. It's the pursuit of power over sound policy. The SEC tried to bully us into acquiescing. Thankfully, we have had the resources to fight back. And now we can all see what they fought so hard to hide. They knowingly created confusion about the rules, and they used that confusion to regulate through enforcement. That's bad faith, plain and simple. Ultimately, as our lawsuit comes to a close, for so many others, it's just starting. The fight for clarity has to continue. I just want to conclude by saying to my colleagues here at Ripple, to my family, my friends, everyone who has supported us over the past 2.5 years, and certainly to the whole of the XRP Army, a very heartfelt and a very genuine thank you for that support.
Disclaimer: this channel, Web3 Turtle, is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and the content provided should not be considered as financial advice. I am not registered or licensed in any financial institution. All investment decisions should be made after conducting thorough research. Investing in cryptocurrencies carries risks. Only invest what you can afford to lose. Seek professional advice or do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. The views expressed are personal opinions. I cannot be held responsible for any losses incurred. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our Web3 Turtle community for more content.